Hey guys, Ryan Dossey here, and in today's video we're going to talk about the top 5 things I hate about utilizing Resimpli. Let's dive right in. If you're not familiar with Resimpli, it's the CRM that we use to work all of our leads and deals in and out of. Basically, when calls come in, it's where the information goes that then my staff works those leads, gets them to contract, either wholesales them off, adds them to flips, rental properties, etc. It's basically, we call it like mission control. It's where pretty much our business operates out of. I'm a long-term Resimpli user. I think I was actually one of the first dozen or so users. I've brought a lot of people to the platform, but there are some shortcomings that I feel like it would be dishonest for me to not share with you. Let's dive right into this. The 5th issue we have, I want to make sure you stick around till the end to see. It is by far the most problematic and absolutely something you want to address if you're going to utilize this platform. Now, guys, I do want to just be totally transparent with you. I'm an affiliate of Resimpli, meaning that I tell people about them. If people utilize my code or discount link, I get compensated. That being said, I don't feel like it's fair to push you guys to a tool without sharing some of the challenges or problems that we've run into. Now, let me be totally blunt. This CRM has made me an absolute fortune in the deals that we've closed. I'm talking wholesales, flips, rentals. Literally every deal I've done since end of 2019 has gone through this portal. Even with these issues, it's still a tool that we're utilizing and we're not going anywhere because it's better than any of the other CRMs that I've tried. With that being said though, let's get into kind of an honest review / critique of this popular real estate investing CRM. So the first complaint I have with Resimpli is their loading time. Occasionally when you're logging in or trying to hop to a different section, it will just load and load and load and load. And I've had it function flawlessly. There's times that I go to log in and I'm in instantly. And then there's other times that literally I've clicked log in, walked away for 5 minutes, I come back and it's still spinning. And I'm not on dial-up or BS internet. We've got literally the fastest we can have and we're still having that problem. I can upload massive files to Dropbox with no problem, but I can't log into the website. It's very hit or miss, which I think makes it kind of frustrating. There's times when I'm just trying to quickly hop in to check out a lead and I can't. And then there's other times that it functions flawlessly. So this one's a little bit hit or miss, but it is something that we find frustrating that I think that you should be aware of. The second complaint that I have is often in Resimpli when I'm going to buy new tracking phone numbers, it tells me that there's none available for that particular market because it's a popular or common market, which I understand, and support can buy them for you. You just have to reach out to them and say hey, can you go get me, say, a new 317 area code number? So what that looks like when you run into that, if you click manage numbers, buy number, and you punch in your area code, in this instance 317, you get this. Some popular area codes sell fast. Please contact support. We can try to get one for you. One thing that kind of stinks about that, one of the things that I enjoy with Resimpli when you're trying to pick phone numbers, here's 314, for instance, this is St. Louis. You can look for a number that looks visually appealing to you and you've got a pretty, solid range. I try to look for things that have repeating numbers. So this one here I like because it's got a lot of 2s, 6s, you kind of look for one this one's pretty solid, ends in 4100, just something that's kind of easy to remember. You don't necessarily get that if you're having to hit support up and say, hey, can I get a new tracking phone number? Not to mention, it's just one of those things that kind of hinders your workflow. You're trying to buy a tracking number, set up your call flow, but you can't. You have to hit up support, wait for them to get it to you. I will say their support is fantastic. It's just one of those inconveniences that you might find annoying. The third issue that we've had, and this one is more intermittent and I think often is more related to your local internet, is call connectivity. So Resimpli functions as a VoIP, which I think stands for Voice over Internet Protocol, basically meaning you can make calls through your computer through the internet without having to have a physical phone. We've had times where the seller can't hear us or there's crackling or we're really quiet. And in our experience, the best way to prevent that issue ideally is to be hardwired into your Ethernet if you can, cable into the side of it, not on Wi-Fi. And then also make sure that your headset is like a physical plug-in to headset, not like a Bluetooth wireless setup. Just kind of eliminate some of those potential variables for that problem popping up. At the end of the day, like, it's not the end of the world, but we do like to make all of our calls in and out of Resimpli. The way we have recordings, we can audit our own staff. If we close a deal, we can listen to it and say, hey, what did we do well? If we don't close a deal, we can listen to the offer call and be like, hey, where did we maybe mess up? When it happens, honestly, it's like, okay, I guess we're using our cell phone to make this call kind of a setup. The fourth issue that we've had with Resimpli comes with regards to their updates. When Resimpli is updating or like adding new features, oftentimes it feels like they're adding in like new things, but not necessarily fixing old things. Like they'd roll out something new, like list stacking, for instance, but there was still the call connectivity issues or like the load time problems. So I understand like rolling out new features is sexy. It makes people happy. Often this is like stuff that people are requesting. But at the end of the day, like I would rather the core functionality be perfect than have extra cool like goodies on top that we don't actually use. So, just be aware of that. Like you might have a recurring issue that doesn't get addressed in the first update. It might get done 2 or 3 later while they're adding new features on top. Somebody using the software, it can make you kind of feel like maybe you're being ignored or like the issue isn't a priority to them. But in my experience, they are pretty good about getting to things. It might just take a couple passes before your particular problem gets fixed. So the fifth issue that we have with Resimpli, and what I think is quite frankly the most problematic, is the Resimpli branding. So like, what do we mean by that? When you buy a phone number through Resimpli and you call a seller, often on their phone or on their caller ID, it's gonna show up as Resimpli, which is obviously not what we want. We don't really want sellers going and researching what CRM we're using and finding data of like how to close more deals, like that kind of stuff, right? Same thing happens if you're using their contracts. When it comes through to the other party, it has like a from Resimpli and even has Resimpli branding and logos on the actual document, which causes like a lot more questions than it prevents. So often, if I'm being blunt, we don't even use the signature like features inside of Resimpli. We're using a different tool called Right Signature, just to make sure that our contracts don't come from this third party that they don't really understand, that if they research doesn't look like an e-sign tool anyway. You can have them fix it with your phone numbers, but you have to reach out to them and manually request it. Quite frankly, I think this is something that should be done by default when you're purchasing phone numbers. Why would I buy a number for my business and want it to show up as a different business? That simply doesn't make sense and has caused us some issues with sellers. The real problem with it is it just looks sketchy. There's a lot of things we do in our business to show sellers that we're legit, to try to like ease fears or concerns, but when they get a phone call from us and it shows up as a different company, it's kind of a red flag. I think you'd probably agree. One extremely unique feature of Resimpli that I do think you should be aware of is that they do have a public Facebook group that all of their clients are in, meaning you can see like real-time feedback, real-time issues. It's a great way to share any like questions or concerns or frustrations you have. I'm a little surprised that they did it personally. Like, do you want all of your frustrated customers all talking to each other about the problem they've got? But that just kind of shows you the kind of transparency that Resimpli is up to when it comes to building out this CRM. In the description of this video, I will link to that Facebook group. That way you can check it out for yourself if you're interested. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch today's video about the top 5 complaints we've had utilizing Resimpli since 2019. If you're using the software, maybe this makes you feel like you're not alone in a few of the frustrations you've got. If you're interested in becoming a client, at least you're not doing so with rose-colored glasses. In my experience with softwares like this, they're constantly changing, constantly evolving. I think Resimpli is going and heading the correct direction. Just be aware if you join, become a client, that likely there might be a few bugs that you're going to experience, but in my opinion, it's still well worth it. One other thing that I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention in this review is if you have multiple businesses or partnerships, Resimpli locks to one email account. So like me personally, I'm in multiple markets. We're even setting up a couple additional ones. And one of the problems we've ran into is like I've literally run out of emails to use to set up new Resimpli accounts. If you're used to something like Podio where one email can have like all these different companies under it, that's not how Resimpli works. It's one account to one email, meaning if you're gonna set up a couple markets, you're gonna have to have a couple emails. Just makes it a little difficult to track, in my opinion. Thanks again for taking the time to watch this video review. Be sure to like and subscribe. We'll talk to y'all next time.